Hello, my friends. Welcome back to my channel. I'm so happy to see you here. Today in this video, we're going to learn English with a special technique called shadowing. Now, you might be wondering, what is shadowing? Let me explain. Shadowing is when you listen to someone speaking in English and try to repeat what they say exactly how they say it. It helps you improve your pronunciation, intonation, and even your listening skills. It's like being a shadow, following every move. Here's how you can use this video to practice. First, listen to me as I read a story. All the words will appear on the screen so you can follow along. Then, try repeating after me, copying my tone and rhythm. It's okay if you don't get it perfect the first time. Practice makes progress. Before we begin, I want to tell you why I chose this story. It's something I heard recently, and I thought it would be perfect to share with you because it's both interesting and useful. Now, are you ready for today's powerful story? It's called The Fire That Didn't Burn Me. Let's begin. My name is Priya. I'm 34 years old, and I come from a small village near Chennai, India. 6 years ago, my entire life changed in a single night. At the time, I lived in a small house with my husband and 2 children. Life was modest, but it was ours. I worked as a seamstress, sewing clothes for the people in our neighborhood. One evening in July, the monsoon had just passed, and the air was heavy with humidity. My kids were sleeping, and I was finishing a blouse by the flickering light of a candle. Suddenly, I smelled smoke. Not the usual cooking kind. This was thick, dark. I stood up. I turned and saw flames near the curtain. The candle had tipped over. Within seconds, the fire spread. My hands were shaking. I shouted for my husband. We grabbed the children and ran outside barefoot. The fire took everything: our home, our clothes, even my sewing machine. The next morning, I stood in front of the ashes. My hands were black with soot. My heart was numb. We stayed in a shelter for weeks. I cried at night, thinking, how will we survive now? People brought food and old clothes. A kind neighbor gave us blankets, but no one could give me back my tools or my hope. Then one morning I saw a poster at the shelter. It said, Women's Skills Program, free training for fire victims. I didn't want to go. I was embarrassed. I felt broken, but something inside me whispered, try. So I went. The first day, I sat in the back, quiet, nervous, but the teacher smiled at me like I mattered. We learned tailoring, embroidery, and even basic business skills. Slowly, I started stitching again. Not just clothes, confidence. 3 months later, I completed the program. They gave me a second-hand sewing machine. I took it home, to our new, small rented room, and I began. First, I stitched clothes for the neighbors. Then, I started making custom dresses for weddings. People talked. More came. 1 year later, I had enough clients to rent a tiny shop. I called it Phoenix Threads, like the bird that rises from fire. Today, I employ 3 women, 2 of them also fire survivors. When I look back, I still remember the night of the fire, the panic, the loss. But I also remember the day I walked into that training room, the day I decided the fire would not define me.
It didn't burn me. It rebuilt me.
That experience taught me something I will never forget. Sometimes, the worst things that happen to us are the very things that shape us. Loss, pain, fear, they're not the end. They're the beginning of something stronger. When everything is gone, you learn what you're really made of. And sometimes you discover you're stronger than fire. All right, here are some natural English phrases and words from today's story. Everyday phrases.
1.
Flickering light, meaning light that goes on and off quickly or unsteadily. Example: Priya was sewing by the flickering light of a candle.
2.
Everything was gone, meaning total loss. Example: The fire destroyed her house. Everything was gone. 3. Something inside me whispered, meaning an inner voice encouraged me. Example: Even though she was scared, something inside her whispered, try.
4.
Stitching confidence, meaning slowly rebuilding self-belief. Example: As Priya sewed, she was stitching confidence.
5.
Didn't burn me, rebuilt me, meaning a painful experience didn't destroy me, it made me stronger. Example: The fire didn't burn Priya, it rebuilt her. Vocabulary.
1.
Seamstress, meaning a woman who sews professionally. Example: Priya worked as a seamstress before the fire.
2.
Shelter, meaning a temporary place to live, often after a disaster. Example: Priya's family lived in a shelter after losing their home. 3.
Soot,
Meaning black powder from fire. Example: Her hands were covered in soot after the fire.
4.
Embroidery, meaning decorative sewing patterns on fabric. Example: She learned embroidery in the training program.
5.
Phoenix, meaning a mythical bird that rises from its ashes, symbolizing rebirth. Example: Priya named her shop Phoenix Threads because she rebuilt her life. Practice time. Repeat after me. Flickering light. Flickering light. Everything was gone. Everything was gone. Something inside me whispered. Something inside me whispered. Stitching confidence. Stitching confidence. Didn't burn me, rebuilt me. Didn't burn me, rebuilt me. Seamstress. Seamstress. Shelter. Shelter.
Soot, soot.
Embroidery. Embroidery. Phoenix. Phoenix. Amazing job. You're really improving. Thank you so much for listening today. If you ever feel like your world is falling apart, think of Priya. She lost everything in a fire, but she didn't let the flames destroy her future. Sometimes life burns down the old, so you can build something better. Your pain doesn't define you. Your courage does. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs inspiration. And don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories that teach English and life lessons. This is Learn English Naturally, and I'll see you in the next story. Until then, keep learning, keep going, and never let anything stop you.